Thailand, I was involved in a series of deliberative polls with the Ministry of Health on the issue of whether the, what was until just around that period called the 30 Baht program, would include renal replacement therapy. And this was an issue of life and death, but it also involved a lot of potential expenses. And they wanted to consult the public. So the World Health Organization found us to assist them. And in some of the areas of Thailand, I remember particularly where I was at in Udon Thani, which is in the northern part of Thailand, where the average educational level was only 4 years. So the Ministry of Health did very good video background briefings because they were not literate enough really to use a written briefing document. It worked beautifully. It worked beautifully. And I think in all of so we did 5 such deliberative polls in different parts of Thailand, and the clincher for the people was that the healthcare system that applied to government workers already included renal replacement therapy, and it did not for the ordinary people. And it was that difference that really seemed to move the opinion. The problem also was that if somebody got kidney disease, basically that was not only a death sentence, but it was all the money that anybody in their kinship network had was taken to keep them alive a little bit longer. And then after their family network was entirely destitute, then they would die. And so this was really a terrible sentence in all of it. So in response, the government found relatively more cost-effective renal replacement therapy, but they instituted it, and they said that given their population projections, we were going to have to come back in a few years to face the really difficult rationing problem if depending on the economic impact of that. But the point I raise is that we used video briefing materials in that case very successfully. So then at the end during the process, people engage the issue. They come up after the small group discussions with key questions they want to ask that will help them decide what they think about the different policy options. Those key questions are then asked by members of that group. Each group will take the question, let's say 2 questions from that small group session, where each group, they will ask questions in their own voice to the competing experts. You'll get a couple of different responses, and then after the plenary session where these questions are asked, they go back and they have another small group discussion. We continue that, let's say, for 1 day, 2 days, depending on the time, depending on the complexity of the issues that are being considered. And then at the end, we get another questionnaire filled out, and we see the changes of opinion. And usually, overall, we calculate that on all the deliberative polls, 70% of the questions have changed significantly before and after. Sometimes dramatically, as I will show you. And notice, even if the opinions don't change, they've now been tested against adverse opinion. They've been tested against different points of view. So, if you think A rather than B should be done, but it's a kind of a vague impression, and somebody gives you a survey either on the phone or face-to-face, and you say that in the survey, and then you come and you engage in this process, then by the end of it you say A again. Well, A is your support for A rather than B is now a different kind of opinion because you've thought about it. You've thought about all the reasons for either side, and you've confirmed your view, or maybe you've changed your view. But the point is, even when the opinions are the same, they represent more thought, which is why we ask knowledge questions. And we can show usually that it's the people who become more informed who change their views, and we get big changes in knowledge. By the way, this is not a self-report of knowledge. We don't ask people, do you think you're more informed? They'll always say yes, of course. No, we ask them actual questions. Multiple choice questions. And there's an art to knowledge questions. We ask them multiple choice questions. You don't ask them true-false questions because then they can guess and they have a 50% chance of being right. You ask them multiple choice questions. And we create an index, a knowledge index, and that knowledge index is very useful to explaining opinion change. But I'll get back to that.